when the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Welcome to the best soccer show, the best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. It's the best soccer show. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, back live after a Thanksgiving holiday to talk about American soccer with you, our besties. Hello, besties. Oh, we had a lovely Thanksgiving.
I gave thanks. I gave
thanks?
the appropriate level of thanks.
Who did you thank? Jared, I know some things about you. Who did you thank? did you
My family. Beelzebub.
Beelzebub. Wow.
I don't know.
You might get us banned if you're admitting to that. It could be some sort of campaign against us or something.
No, I think we got some hardcore Satanists listening that are into that kind of thing.
Welcome into the best soccer show here on this Thursday episode. Back at it after Thanksgiving and after the second leg of the U.S. men's national team quarterfinal in the Nations League against Trinidad and Tobago. A game that, Jared, I don't remember what happened. Can you remind me?
Oh, that was a big L. Oh, there was a big L.
A big old L. A big old L. We took another L in Trinidad. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Again?
El Trinidad got us.
Oh man, that was not good. So I think on this episode we should be talking a little bit about that, about Serginho Dest going nutso over there in the
losing his damn mind. Can we just say it that way? Losing his damn mind.
Yeah, I don't know what words are appropriate anymore. Let's just say he lost control of his emotions. Right, he lost emotional control. I think that's going to come up. I also think we should talk about what Jesse Marsch had to say on television about this generation of the U.S. men's national team.
Because he's a media member now.
He is a TV guy, that Jesse Marsch.
He's a podcaster now.
Oh, I heard he's going to be podcasting with Charlie Davies and Jimmy Conrad, right? So, okay, we'll talk about what Jesse had to say on a couple different fronts. I think on this episode we will have to address what one Mr. Matt Miazga did in New York and the punishment that's been handed down by Major League Soccer for his actions at Red Bull Arena. The response from the MLS Players Association, which is, I'm not going to call it wild. I'm not going to call it over the top. I'm going to let it speak for itself. I don't want to bias you, Jared. You can tell me what you make.
It's very interesting because I did not see. I saw the news, but I did not see what the Players Association or Players Union had to say. So
they are the Players Association, the MLSPA, the Players Association, but we can call them a union. I mean, they are a union. They're representing the players in that that internal battle between labor and management. Jared, which one are you? I always forget. Are you labor or are you management?
Oh, I'm management.
You're management. Okay, yes. So you're on the side of the fat cats, not on the side of the hardworking Americans.
I think that's one of the biggest misnomers in American labor. Is that there's management does not ever operate with the human in mind.
Oh, okay. All right. So okay. I mean, I don't know how many of the people that work in your industry, ride up to Paso Robles and grab a couple of cases of wine to bring home on a regular basis. I'm just saying.
Well, obviously this one. And by the way, I've never grabbed a couple of cases. I ain't got that kind of money.
A couple of bottles, I guess. That's probably more fair. All right. So look, I don't want to relitigate things that have already been talked about. I've heard that there have been some high-level meetings about the state of the U.S. men's national team that we were not a part of. So I don't know if I want to go back over some of that.
Oh, we're already. So you're telling me that Greg's already worn out his welcome?
Greg wore out his welcome a while ago for some people. But
yeah.
Jared, I will say, okay, look, everybody listening, everybody watching this knows about the loss in the loss in Trinidad. Like everybody knows that we failed to win a game where we didn't have to win the game.
True.
Everybody knows that Serginho Dest did a thing that really hurt his team in a spectacular way. And they might have lost that game even if Greg Berhalter had done everything right post red card to Serginho Dest. But I'm
Yeah,
done.
I think the U.S. is winning that game if
I'm done.
that doesn't happen.
I'm
Done with what?
I'm done with Greg Berhalter. I'm done.
Oh,
I'm not gonna go ranting and raving and foaming at the mouth about this, but I'm
what
not.
was the straw that broke the red beard's back?
You know, I really do think that his mismanagement of that game is the final straw for me. The thing that
It
I
was
can't
mismanaged.
get over.
I have to agree. Listen. I don't put Serginho Dest's actions on Greg Berhalter. I don't. There's nothing. No coach can plan for a dumbass player to make a dumbass decision. But I think you can have a lot of things to say about the decisions that were made immediately following that red card, and I
Right.
don't think I think it's 100% okay to be critical of that.
That's
Now, to the point of saying you're done, okay.
well, okay. I didn't want him to come back for a second cycle, right?
Okay.
It was somewhat about his tactical acumen or lack thereof, or seeming lack thereof. It was certainly like, oh, I'm not sure about this guy anyway, because of some of the ways that the team played under his direction. Now, I'm also somebody who's willing to say it can't all be on the coach. That, there are 11 guys on the field who make individual decisions. He can only do so much to put them in a position to win. But we saw patterns. I mean, not literal patterns of play, just patterns in terms of their regular performances. I gave him a big, long pass because he had a young team and he was trying to get them experienced up. And he was in his first ever run as a national team manager, right?
True.
And no, I can blame U.S. Soccer for hiring that guy with this group if I wanted them to do more. But I understood that Greg Berhalter had a difficult challenge that he was handed by U.S. Soccer.
Absolutely.
So I was willing to give him some time to bake into the job and get himself up to speed. But after the Geo situation, and we passed blame to everybody, right? We said, you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong.
Mhm.
Greg Berhalter made a cardinal sin. He committed a cardinal sin for a head coach, in my mind, and that is that he told tales out of school. He betrayed the trust of his team by going public with something that should never have been public. And you can make excuses up and down about why you did it. No, it was this rules. What was it? Chatham House rules? I mean, that sounds way too fancy for me to understand.
It sounds like
Chatham House
the
rules.
etiquette of how to eat at the dinner table in Downton Abbey or something.
People, if you're using Chatham House rules at your Thanksgiving dinner, I don't want to be invited. Okay, that is entirely too stuffy for me. Like, I don't need the crystal.
Got to eat your rolls with a fork.
Yeah. But after that, I didn't care about the investigation, right? I really do believe that's a personal matter. His wife and him have seemed to have put that behind them. That wasn't one of those things where I was like, oh my God, the guy beat his wife. He's got to be fired. I believe in second chances on stuff like that. And if he really did the work to make himself better in that regard, that's up to him and his wife. But I didn't think he needed a second cycle. I don't like that in general for anybody because we've seen it be a problem for the U.S. men's national team. And he had betrayed the trust of his team. So now here we are. And, we went through the whole process. Got to do the investigation. BJ's in charge. BJ who? Callahan. BJ's in charge. We look good at the Nations League. I wasn't sure if that was like lots of people. Oh, the BJ makes.
Man, you remember that BJ back in the summer? That thing was that BJ was memorable.
It's the last time we had a good BJ was back in the summer.
I know.
I mean, but I didn't necessarily think, oh, Greg has nothing to do with the way that they played in the Nations League. That's all BJ. But come on, man. I mean, look, even if I think that they can get better under Berhalter, he flat out got it wrong. He flat out got it wrong.
For sure.
Against Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, absolutely. The choice to take out Gio Reyna is not necessarily the wrong one. I think no matter what, it's the plan. It sounds like the plan was 45 minutes for him either way. Chalk. Taking Gio Reyna off the field at that point, chalk. But it should have been a double substitution. It should have been Gio Reyna and one of the two strikers, and someone you had to put it right back in. So Joe Scally for Gio Reyna, chalk, 100%. Yeah. It should have been a Leonard Maloney or something like that going into the midfield because that's the area of the field that they got dominated in after that red card. The fact to stay with two strikers still up front, does he think that he's still going to win at 10 men? Like you got to show up and put down a drubbing from that? I mean, look, it was naive.
I've watched this happen enough times that I don't always like try to do this. Like, oh, what's in somebody's head? We can't know. I've seen Greg Berhalter do this enough times to believe that once again, the man is overthinking everything. Now he's overthinking it in sort of this being very tied into his plan, which he said after the game, this was our plan. Gio was coming off after 45, and we just made that decision.
That's nice.
Right. But he also, I'm positive that in his mind, he thought this was showing belief in his side. And I got to show belief in my side. And I got to show them that I have the confidence that they're going to figure out how to win this game down a man.
He's going to show me belief in his coaching abilities.
I mean, again, I don't think Greg Berhalter is an idiot, but I think Greg Berhalter boxes himself in. I think he freezes in the moment. I think he doesn't. I think he talks himself into the wrong decision because he finds some and it's not because he's trying to screw it up, right? He's obviously not trying to be incompetent. He understands that when you're down a man, you can't have two strikers on the field and no help in the midfield. It doesn't make any damn sense. He understands that, but in the moment, he can't seem to get out of his box about what he was planning to do.
Even after having 15 minutes of halftime to think about it, like who's the person that has the intervention with Greg Berhalter?
BJ?
Yeah,
where is BJ? Okay,
I ask every night.
Where? Well, that too. But where is he? Like, where is the guy?
Is there no council of elders here or something? Like,
he's not running roughshod over this coaching staff, is he? I mean, he's not this like dictator at the top of the pyramid, and what he says is law. He's a guy who seems to be open to the idea of suggestion and working with his team and working with his staff. Where's the person who said, yo, Greg, this is dumb. We've got to take one of these guys off. Let's leave Balogun on the field for a while, sure, but let's get Pepe off, right? Because he's not going to be able to do anything. And this game is not made. Like, you could argue maybe Pepe hold-up play is better than Balogun, sure, but I don't know.
I find this take interesting, and I think I agree with it from Maddie Showtime in the chat, and it says, Triple G has kind of switched. He used to mess up his starting lineups, then make great subs. Now he's giving everyone the lineups they want with iffy subs. He can't win. I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Okay, but how about do both? How about give us
can we have
good subs? Can we get both of those things?
Mm-hmm.
That's not. It's like being able to hit a good drive and then not being able to putt, or being the best putter in the world, but you can't ever get the ball on the green
into the chains.
Shots for no matter. But you just make
you can't get the disc into the chains. I get you.
You made a frisbee frolf reference.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. We can go back to that. I mean, again, I'm not going to become a hashtag guy. First of all, I don't live on Twitter anymore. I don't. And look, this is not. I don't know. This is not a campaign. I'm just done. Let's go. Let's move on.
Move on to what?
Well,
because the same candidates are there that were there before. Like nothing in the world has really changed.
How about a guy who was up for the job in the first place, whose agent took to Twitter to announce he was no longer up for the job and seemed incredibly bitter about that? Shout out to Ron Waxman. How about a guy who's now working for Paramount Plus and CBS and doing sideline reporting from the friggin' Champions League? I'm not saying that Jesse Marsch has convinced me he's a great soccer coach, but he's done some things. He's got some experience. He's achieved a little bit. I would happily hand the reins to Jesse Marsch right now, if that was a possibility.
I guess that's probably the move. You're saying that Copa America results in Copa America aren't the right time to do this. It has to be ahead of Copa America.
Well, I don't like being doom or gloom.
Because at the end of the day, just like we said with the World Cup and qualifying, the result was achieved. They qualified for Copa America and they moved on to the next round of the Nations League. And it was ugly. But the result is achieved. So can you really fire the guy if the results are being achieved? Don't you have to have a result that is not achieved?
Yes, so there are two things in my head. One, I'm done. I would happily take a change right now. I would happily take Jesse Marsch. Bob Bradley's over there somewhere. I'm not saying bring him back, but I would happily take a change. But I also recognize that if
Thierry Henry's killing it with the French youth.
Yeah, sure he is.
Yes.
If I'm being realistic about this, I don't foresee any change, and I'm not even sure. I really don't want to believe that this is true. But I'm not even sure that if they bow out of the group stage of the Copa America, that they would actually make a change. I would hope they would, but that's 1 year away from a World Cup. Or, I'm sorry, 2 years away from World Cup with no qualifying.
That's enough time.
Yeah, sure, but is it really the thing where you're like, okay?
So do you think Jesse Marsh made a move to CBS, Golazo, Paramount, Mountaintop Plus, that this is a way to keep him unattached and available, yet still keep in the sphere, still be in a place where he can exit if necessary? If someone flips the switch, pushes the button, the alarm goes off, bat signal. What would Jesse Marsh's bat signal look like?
Ooh, what would Jesse Marsh's back signal look like? I mean, wow.
I don't know if it's a signal so much as it's a siren that goes, "Ich spiel, respect for the game."
Do I have that one? Yeah.
Zu viel Respekt für die Gegner.
I
Zu viel.
Oh, your volume came back finally.
like a siren that goes off that says "You feel respect for the gang."
Yeah. Get the
Whatever. I
fucker
don't
stuck in.
I don't know how to speak German or Austrian.
I don't know that he does either.
Okay, Midrug. I don't know that that's what he's doing. I don't know
Smart.
if he's buying his time.
It's
We
smart.
we do have some words directly from Jesse Marsh's mouth on this particular topic. I'll play that part before I play the other part that is going to lead to a different discussion. Here's Jesse Marsh when asked by the Paramount Plus CBS crew while he was on the sidelines doing Champions League reporting if he was interested in the U.S. men's national team job. Here he is.
But I really still think that my future lies here in Europe and finding good clubs to coach here. I'm a little bit more of someone who enjoys the daily grind and the being part of a team, and I feel like that's the way to really impact a group. So, I mean, let's see what happens. You never know. You can never say never. But I'm really happy living here in Europe. I'm really happy with the challenge of getting to know new cultures, languages, teams, leagues, Champions League, right? There's nothing for me bigger than Champions League. So, anyway, yeah.
All right, so there you go. That is Jesse Marsh. He says he wants to stay in Europe. Jared, you believe him? Is he biding his time for another European job? It's not about the national team.
If you don't have another offer, hell yeah, stay in Europe. If you can get CBS's money to hang out at Champions League games, talk about the game, and stay in Europe and like live that life, hell yeah, the dude's living life. Now, everything he said is probably true. My immediate future's here in Europe. I'm waiting for all this opportunity. I want to do all this. That's because the U.S. national team job is not on the table. And
he's still getting paid by leads. He's still getting cash. He's still getting a check. He's doubling. The man's double dipping right now. He doesn't have it doesn't exist, right? Well, if he takes a job, he doesn't get the leads money. So now, while he bides his time, he can get leads to pay him what they owe him on the contract or pay him a buyout, and he can get paid by CBS.
He's got that child. He got that spousal support. That's what
he can also fish around for a job in Europe.
He's got a live-in girlfriend for 4 years with a kid, but won't marry her because he wants that check.
And this is the question, and I think our man Phil and Mike Tins is right about this. That
play the man's drop.
If I should play the man's drop, why am I'm out of practice?
Michael freaking Oscar Fiscal.
What up, Mike?
If the bat signal, the Jesse Marsh signal went up, he would answer he would take the job.
He'd answer the call.
There's this thing about and this is, you have to remember this too, right? There's this mutual respect. We're in the coaching fraternity. We're not going to talk about somebody else's job. He's being paid to be a pundit right now, but he's consciously being paid to be a pundit on things that have nothing to do with Greg Berhalter and the national team job, so he can be free not to have to answer those questions. So he can just say, no. This is, in fact, here is Charlie Davies asked Jesse Marsh, when do we get to that point where it's not good enough with Greg Berhalter? And Jesse Marsh went full diplomatic, and this is what he said.
What should Greg Berhalter, what should be that line to say, hey, keep going with them, we got 2026, or he's not improved the squad enough?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's not for me to say. But I will say this. We've talked a lot about this golden generation, them being so talented. They don't have a signature win yet. right? They don't have a win against a big opponent where you can look at and go, yeah, that was an incredible performance, and that shows that this team is ready for the biggest games. And that's what Copa America has to be for us. It has to be the moment where this group of players, they put all this idea of potential and all the talk about what they can become, and it has to now mean something come big opponents in a big tournament at a big moment.
Did you?
I love this answer.
Interesting, right there.
Go ahead, tell
So
me.
for the whole first part of that answer, it was they. When he talked about Copa America, he said us.
Interesting.
And then he went back to they again.
Interesting. Now, I also think that is a brilliant response. I think it is genius, because what he did was criticize Greg Berhalter without directly doing so.
Mhm.
He's obviously aiming it at the generation. He's not specifically mentioning any players, but we know who he's talking about. We already can infer the names that are on that list, but he's not taking any direct shots. None of them can say, "Oh, you're Jesse Marsch, you're being disrespectful, you're being unfair. How dare you do that publicly?" And he's able to find a way to sort of boomerang it back, right? Charlie Davies hands him a fully loaded pistol and tries to get him to aim it at Greg Berhalter. And Jesse says, no, I'm going to aim it over here.
But I
what
found the
happens-
angle where the bullet's going to ricochet just
That's
right.
right. That's right. There's going to be a little bit of a over here, and I'm going to get two things to happen at the same time, and neither of them are going to be direct hits. But I'm still doing it.
It is a punch that lands, though, because he's right. There isn't that statement win. And the most American soccer thing ever is that we have a statement draw. England 0-0 at the World Cup. That is we have a statement draw, and that's what we look to as the defining moment of this generation to show that we can hold with the best in the world. We look at a draw against England, scoreless draw against England.
It's a good point. I mean, there's not a lot else. I mean, you can't.
We can look at Mexico, but we've beat Mexico over the years no matter what. We've beat Mexico a million times. Okay.
No. And look, I don't think we should ever take that for granted. Beating Mexico is always fun. You still want to always do it. And obviously, it's always important.
You beat Netherlands in the round of 16. That's a statement win. You beat England in that first round. That's
if you make a quarterfinal, no matter who you beat, that's a statement win. You don't need it to be one of the top 5 or 6 or 7 nations in the world if you make it to the quarterfinals. But in this case, they had an opportunity to do that.
Even if you could beat this German side a month ago in a friendly, it's something.
I mean,
Jurgen Klinsmann did that.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, flying the flag, we beat Germany. But Jesse Marsch wouldn't have said what he said if they had beaten Germany. He wouldn't have said it, right? He would have said, he would have had to find a different way to do what he just did, or he would have had to say something in a competitive match or something, which would have been true.
He'd have to say something like the USA doesn't have a hair on its head, like just like little shade on Greg Berhalter and like what Jesse's got going on up top. Like
Jesse's got good hair.
Greg
has
good
no
hair.
Yeah,
he's got a good fashion game too.
Look, and I'll admit that I was never in love with the one we had anyway. But I was always willing to give Greg Berhalter a chance. Like I was always willing to kind of let myself be pulled along in case something happened. And now I'm head over heels, right, Jared? Like now I'm in. That hasn't happened. In fact, I've drifted away, and now I've got eyes for somebody else. And I'll say this again, not just because Jesse Marsch has a resume that is beyond Berhalter's, but because the man speaks directly. The man speaks forcefully. The man knows exactly what he wants. I'm tired of mealy-mouthness. I'm tired of the talking around things. And look, people want to come down on him for what he said about Dest after that game. I don't know that I hate that. I think protecting your players probably comes before any real public, ripping the guy apart. But there is something to be said for the fact that Berhalter just never seems capable of getting himself to that place, right? Yeah. And I can't imagine. We've seen the behind the crest. And look, it's all kumbaya. We're all in this together. Let's go show them about American soccer. Every now and then I want a little fire, a little passion, Jared. Right?
Yeah.
We just talked about that. We haven't had a good BJ since the summer, and we need a little passion in our lives.
Bring some whipped cream to bed, like just like spice it up somehow. Give me something to remember this by, It is interesting, and I'm gonna throw this one up here real quick. I like this from Aaron Pimentel. It says our statement needs to be that matching that what Morocco did. That is kind of like that is the baseline where I think the U.S. should be pushing towards. Maybe when you're talking about hosting the World Cup, it makes it a little bit easier to say that, but that is the USA's upside of what we feel that they should be doing.
Yeah,
what they're capable of.
I don't know that I want to fall into that trap. I mean, I get Aaron's point. I don't want to fall into that trap of comparing us to Morocco, because one thing that is true, and this is not necessarily Greg's fault, although he is the one that was asked to enact the plan, is that when they hired him, and I know Jay Berhalter and all that stuff, I know that's all involved in this, okay. But regardless of that, on the football side, on the soccer side, there was still this notion of we got to move forward. We got to push this program to a place where we're no longer playing reactive soccer against the top teams in the world, right? We want to be a team that can go toe-to-toe with England at the World Cup. We don't want to be a team that has 35% possession and gets a couple of set-piece opportunities and a counterattack, and that's the best chance we got. We want to be a team that can take it to them. And Berhalter was tasked with that. I think he was not proper. I don't think he's the right guy. I think he's done some things. Like, I think he
might have been the right guy for right last cycle. I don't mind saying that.
Okay,
he might have been the right guy for last
foundation.
cycle.
And I've used this analogy a billion times already. He laid a foundation, but he's not the man to build the house. I don't think he understands how to build the house on top of whatever foundation he put in place, right? And I don't know if that means tearing down what he built to do something new with a different coach, which I think is probably what Jesse would do. Like, I don't think Jesse's going to come in and say...
I think the pool of players and the players being called in are going to be the same.
No, not that part. I'm talking about the tactical approach. I'm talking about the way that they play more than anything else.
What do you think would change under Jesse Marsh?
Well,
they're
they
still
would press
going
a
to
lot
play 4-3-3.
They would press a lot more, and that would dictate a lot of how they play, because Jesse Marsh is built. His system is built. In that
case, is Tim Weah the right player? Would Tim Weah have a spot in Jesse Marsh's team?
Yeah, there are lots of questions about the player pool of Jesse Marsh.
Because then we're looking at Brendan Aronson instead of Tim Weah, potentially.
Potentially. I mean, I think there could be tweaks. And I would hope that anybody who gets the job would come in and say, well, we can't wholesale change everything. We're going to have to work with this group. And look, we know Tim Weah is a very good player, whatever. And look, after the Dest thing, push Tim Weah to right back, and we'll move on and throw somebody else up on the right wing and see what happens. I don't know. But my point is that Greg Berhalter was asked to evolve American soccer. Okay. And I know we can talk about why he was hired and what kind of ambition U.S. Soccer had at the time he was hired. And could they have done better? Was Tata a better choice, et cetera, all those things. He was the guy, right? And I think he did okay in certain areas. He's not the guy anymore. He's not the guy I want to finish this job. He's not the guy I want to take this generation into the future, because it has stagnated. Somebody used that word in the chat. It's stagnated. We're just running in place at this point. I don't know. We haven't had a ton of examples, but I don't see it. I don't see it anymore. I can't make myself believe that they're going to continue to get better under Greg Berhalter. I can't wish for them to fail. I can't wish for bad things so that he'll get fired. I can't do that. I'm a fan of the team. I want them to win every game they play.
I think I'm maybe a little more realist than you in that it's going to take something massive to get rid of him. It would have to be a complete, I think, fallout in Copa America to get him wedged out. One of the reasons being is that U.S. Soccer, previous to Joe Cocker, I don't know what his feelings are these days, but U.S. does not like to lose money. And it's going to cost them a good chunk of money to get out of Greg Berhalter, especially this early. I think they've made their bed. And
I get it. And I know that's the realist view of this. But that cannot be the reason that you hold on to a coach that is, if not actively making
I think it's why you hold on to him now. I think that's why you don't make a move right now.
Okay, so what would it take? You give me the.
I think falling out in the semis of Nations League combined with
losing the first game in March.
Yep, and combined with not making it out of the first round of Copa America.
So 3 and out of Copa America. Yep. So we're talking July before anything might change
for sure
for the U.S. men's national.
I don't see it. And even then, that's not even a year of his contract being done, payment wise.
That's true. I don't know if he's on a 4-year contract.
Oh no, man. Maybe Cocker spends it different. I'm not sure, man. But it's interesting. Speaking of the statement games, I do want to give this out to Antonio Yatt in the chat. It says, for reference, the O2 team's statement win was Portugal with Figo and 2010s was Spain, which was the undefeated team for what 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that was in the Confederations Cup. Yeah.
Even 2014's team had wins against Ghana and a draw versus Ronaldo in Portugal. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's easy to make the case that Greg Berhalter is still. It's a good call by Jesse Marsh. It is a shot across the bow that is pure.
You pointed out that Klinsmann, and I'm no fan of Klinsmann. I don't love Klinsmann, but Klinsmann would beat Germany, right?
And Netherlands,
beat the Dutch,
and Germany.
It was a friendly, but it's still worth pointing out, right? Yeah, it's still worth pointing out. I mean, I just don't see it, and I know. Look, with this time around, no Pulisic, no Weah, those are factors. I don't like coming down on a coach when he is short on personnel, but that team should have been good enough and should have found a way tactically to handle themselves better. We talked about the frustration of it taking 80 plus minutes to score in the first leg in Austin. The way he managed that game and the simple mistake he made by refusing or simply missing the notion that he needed to throw another body into midfield when Dest came off is... Again,
I'll give you another reason why I would prefer my timeline of that July area is that I'm not convinced that Jesse Marsh is necessarily better. I think Jesse Marsh is a club coach. I think he's going to struggle not to use his tactics at a national team level. And I think that a lot of times at the national team level, you have to adapt to what the players give you because you can't go out and buy the ones you need to fit your system. That might be unfair to Jesse, but that's my feeling on it. And then let me finish. So July allows for a completely new window of coaching opportunity pool.
I don't like that. I don't like making decisions based on factors.
It just lines up, is what I'm saying. It lines up with Copa America.
I'm going to throw Antonio back in here. Antonio said, problem with letting go of Greg now is the team would be even more strapped for cash for a replacement. Best we would do with Jim Curtin. Bring me Jim Curtin.
Sure.
I will happily take Jim Curtin. Are you kidding? Absolutely, I would take Jim Curtin.
You get the feeling that Jim Curtin's kind of done with Philadelphia job. Not Philadelphia, the city. Do you think he's kind of done?
No, I don't get that.
What do you make of the Bedoya stuff?
And again, I'll let Phil and Mike Tin maybe chime in here because I know he's a Philly fan and he's in here. But I think Jim is working hard to make it interesting for himself. I don't know if that means he's done.
Do you think he's trying to leverage ownership to get more out of them?
I think, well, maybe, but I just think that he's just making trouble to make trouble because it's more fun that way. He's done a heel turn. If you're not a Philly fan, or you just don't already like Jim Curtin, it's easy to see that guy as a heel because he digs himself in.
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it.
You don't see what?
I don't see him as a heel, and I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a fan of him. I don't know.
But he is blunt to the point of, oh my God, I can't believe that guy talks like that. If you're not already on board, right? Like I said, if you're not already on board, then you could easily, I don't know, maybe somebody else will give us some perspective. And Mike does say that he thinks Jim is frustrated with ownership and now somewhat with Ernst Tanner.
Let's be honest. Look at the teams around that are splashing cash, and Philly's not one of them. One of your best strikers is another team's cast off. You know, like they don't spend the money
smart.
of other.
That's smart.
But at the same time, when you look around, even Cincinnati, the team that's out there is the gold standard in the East right now, they've spent money. Even Columbus has, I think, spent more money at key positions than Philadelphia has.
Well, yeah,
LAFC, they spend the money. Houston is the only one you can look at right now of the teams out there remaining that is running a Philly style of program.
Well, there's nobody in Philly that makes anywhere close to what Ache makes in Houston. I mean, that's just salary and not transfer fees. But yeah, of course. No, I do think that perhaps Jim Curtin has run out of patience for we're the plucky underdog who doesn't spend a lot of money story, and recognizes that to get over the hump, to finally get that championship, which eluded them last year by millimeters, and this year, you know, in a game that could have gone either way, really, he probably does. He probably does want to see that happen. And
from KY, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I thought there was gonna be a break right there. I apologize.
No, I'm not. I don't want to give you any space.
My radio game's not as good as yours. KY 718 says, I don't know why we limit our coaches to just American coaches. Since the World Cup, a lot of better coaches than Greg just got new jobs. And I think this goes to the feeling that Americans have is that no one understands the American player in the American game like Americans do.
That's not the story anymore. That's a
You don't think
story.
so? I
We're
think
still
that's
saying that. We're not still saying that, are we? Come on. I look. I don't know what happened internally at U.S. Soccer. I don't know what kind of battery of tests. Like I imagine, like little electrodes or whatever, like attached to people's bodies. Like you're not our coach. Look, we got a poor EKG reading off of you in this test. I don't think that the Fed is like, well, we can only hire American coaches. I think the Fed is, to Antonio's point, maybe not willing to spend the kind of money that.
Here's how much is in your piggy bank.
Look. You probably could have had Tata after Mexico, but you didn't want Tata after Mexico, did you? Okay. So, and there are coaches that are sort of bouncing around the American sphere that we have pondered before that aren't American. I don't know, do they not count because they've been coaching in MLS? Oscar Pereira, does he not count because he's been coaching in Major League Soccer? I don't know. Like, I don't know, though, that there's an idea that a marquee name, somebody who's achieved something in Europe, is going to decide to leave either the European club game or the European international game, or South America for that matter, to come coach the U.S. men's national team, even with the World Cup coming up.
At what point do you expect a Joe Cocker or a Gucci Onyewu to come out and actually say something about the status of the team and what's going on? Is it smart for them to
do that? They'll never do it. Not in a million years. Because they're not going to undermine the guy they picked.
So again, remind me, what is Gucci's job?
What is Gucci's job?
And I'm not trying to call him out. I honestly don't know.
He looks badass in a suit. I know that.
For sure.
I think Gucci's an incredibly smart guy. I don't know. I don't know exactly what he.
I just want to understand the hierarchy of U.S. Soccer's executive and like what should each of them be working on to help with this problem, assuming they even see that it's a problem.
Okay. I'm going to read the press release since you asked this before we move on to other topics. In this newly created role, which is the Vice President of Sporting, which still sounds like an incomplete sentence.
Kansas City?
In this newly created role, the two-time World Cup veteran will work closely with U.S. Soccer sporting director Matt Crocker in supporting all sporting initiatives within the federation. That's very generic and non-specific. Yeah. Reporting to Crocker, Onyewu will also play a prominent role in managing relationships with clubs and leagues in the United States and across the world.
That's similar to Barry McBride's role.
Along with strengthening other stakeholder relationships. And that basically means like all of those member associations that are involved in U.S. Soccer. Gooch is the one that's going to help make them feel
so what I'm hearing there is that
cared for.
He doesn't necessarily have direct team oversight. It's more peripheral.
Gooch?
Yeah. I don't think in terms of day-to-day of the team.
I think that Gooch is probably in some meetings where they discuss some things.
Yep.
But ultimately, it's down to Matt Crocker.
So that's 100%. Where I want to make sure we know where we're pointing our gaze, and I think it is far more direct at Joe Cocker in terms of what someone has to answer at some point for this. And I don't know. It's very hard because we'd have no idea what the gauntlet was put towards Greg Berhalter when he took the job, and what Cocker's reasoning really was for choosing.
Yeah, we can't know. But because we can't know, it falls to them. Like maybe Matt Crocker was directed by somebody, or the board got together and said, look, we don't have any extra cash, and the best we can do is $1.6 million a year, and the only person we know that is reasonably qualified for this job that will take 1.6 is Greg Berhalter, and he's right there. And we don't have to do onboarding. We can just toss him back into the pool. Maybe that's the case. But I don't know that for sure. I can't be. I don't.
Listen, Cocker had balls of steel, man. He put him on the table when he hired Berhalter back because he knew he had to know that the U.S. fan base was not in a majority situation in terms of bringing Berhalter back.
Well, but okay, then we're talking about whether or not that is pressure U.S. Soccer.
And you could say that you're seeing it at the attendance level at these games.
Yeah, but
you could make that argument.
Attendance problems happened before Berhalter, before this whole situation. Attendance problems are not, and attendance problems, most people will tell you, are down to ticket prices, not down to who's coaching the team or how they're playing. It's not about that. I just think that it's, if you want my opinion on that, I think it's really hard to sell casual sports fans, which most fans are. You and I are not. Mm-hmm. Lots of people watching this are not. People listening are not. American Outlaws are not. But most people are casual fans. It's really hard to sell a casual fan on coming out and seeing a team that hasn't achieved anything of note ever, right? And is playing a team like Trinidad and Tobago. Like, they just don't. And yeah, you price them out too, right? Maybe if you made the tickets super cheap, they would come out because it's a cheap night out.
And here's how
entertainment.
passionate U.S. soccer fans are. It's not just the ticket prices; it's the travel cost. Like these fans travel around the world to support this team, and that isn't cheap. And then you're almost saying that there's only a certain segment of society that can support this team in person.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's that, and I don't like that, right? I don't, but I don't want to open up that can of worms. We've been down that road. All right, I'm going to throw it to Antonio in here again. 29 was throwing a conspiracy theory out that Pep is coaching the U.S. in 26 with Greg as an assistant, because Pep's deal ends after the 2024-25 season in Manchester.
I'd be shocked
No,
if Pep Guardiola was the
No,
coach of
it's
this
not going to
team
happen.
at any point.
I will tell you that. Okay, since we're talking conspiracy and we're talking rumors, I may have heard that.
Well, you
US
work with a guy
soccer-
that knows a lot of conspiracies.
I don't. Who are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Who is this? Who could that be?
Robbie Earl. I don't know. Tommy Smith. I don't know. Who do you work with over there?
I don't. I know nothing of which you speak, but I
Okay.
have been in the
the
general
mountaintop.
vicinity of discussions about how it's possible that maybe there's out there a rumor, a possibility that U.S. Soccer has already maybe given Jesse a ring just to check on a contingency situation, just to say, hey, maybe we might need you. Would you be?
Hey, maybe don't sign the
Interested.
paperwork on that podcast just yet.
Oh, you know what? I think he could probably do the podcast and coach the national team. Greg was doing that.
Oh,
Bobby-
wait. So you talked to
Bobby
Alex
Warshaw
Jermaine
was-
Jones, and that's where you got this.
I may have talked to. That's probably who it was. Alex Jermaine Jones. Yeah, 100%.
That guy
It was
knows
on-
things.
It actually was on my show, Post to Post AM, where we talk about soccer conspiracy theories.
I still think that's one of the best ideas for a show ever.
It's a great show. It's a great idea. Speaking of conspiracy theories,
Let's do it.
Jared, FC
The
Cincinnati
UAP,
fans
the UAP Disclosure Act?
are
we gonna talk about
fully on board with the idea that there may have been a conspiracy in place to
Oh.
prevent Matt Miazga from playing in the Eastern Conference Final.
To
and
what end? Because they want
in the MLS Cup
Columbus to
final.
win?
I actually don't know. There are some wild people on the
I guess you
internet.
don't have to have a conclusion for why something happens. You just had to make it fun to talk about the fact it might be happening.
Sure. You don't need to have information.
Make
You don't
people
need
mad.
to have
That's all
actual
that matters.
evidence. You just need to get people excited for the possibility that there's some shady thing happening behind the scenes. All right. So what do we know? Matt Miazga got a yellow card in regulation. Then he got yellow carded by Victor Rivas, who is the 2023 Major League Soccer Referee of the Year, Jared. I will point
Respect.
that out. He got, and I've been notified, and I have checked this on the internet. You can see
Another
the
one.
pictures. Victor Rivas, and this is for the video people watching on YouTube. Victor Rivas gives cards like this. He doesn't give cards like this. He gives cards like this. Two fingers. Two
What do you
fingers on
think
the
that
card.
says about him?
I don't know, but I don't know. You'd make your own judgments about how Victor Rivas gives a card. Victor Rivas gives Matt Miazga a second yellow after the penalty kick shootout because of his interaction with
You
the
know what
fans.
I might
which-
do? Like, what would be your card giving style?
Well, this is sort of like we've talked
I
about
think-
this.
I-
What
I
is your flipping the bird style? Because when we were kids, there was a whole lot of discussion about whether you were supposed to go like this or
What-
whether you
what
were
if-
supposed to go like this.
I think maybe I would like frame it and be like,
Like above your head.
Yeah.
Like by the power of Grayskull, you have been
Yeah.
yellow carded.
yeah, that's my move right there.
I think I don't have anything on hand. Here, you fill while I look for something that looks like a card.
Well, I could have held up my lottery ticket to do that, but I told you I don't want anyone stealing my info on it.
By the way, Jared has
The
no
lottery
idea how
ticket that's
lottery
still
tickets
sitting
work.
there.
He
It's
has
still
no
sitting there for almost a year now that I
So
haven't cashed
so
it
again,
yet.
okay, I have a piece of paper that's roughly the
Okay.
size of a card. Okay, so again, this is how most referees will give
Sure.
a card, right? Like,
Right,
just
this is
kinda-
great for the podcast audience.
I
by the
know,
way.
I know. Okay, I'm holding it up like with between my forefinger and my thumb, but I have a fist underneath it, right? That's a
Yes.
standard.
You're
that's a
fisting that
standard-
card. I got it.
I'm 100% fisting this card. The Victor Rivas technique is more like two
Fingering
fingers.
the card.
You instead of fisting, you're fingering. These are the actual names of these styles. I
Yes.
think this is out there.
I didn't invent it.
So you're saying you would do two hands? and
How?
hold it up?
You might have to. I could two hand it.
Okay, that's double fisting is definitely not something anybody's on board with, and even in a card giving situation. Okay, all right.
But if it was like this, would you be shockering it? Like because it's
Yeah, you're gonna have to. I don't know. I mean, extraneous fingers pointing out
Yeah,
is not.
I'll say that. Here's the thing. Do you think if Victor Rivas thought in the mirror, I want to do
Oh,
this different. I want to have my own style.
100%.
Because you
100%.
got to think if it's your profession
Oh,
and you're on
100%.
TV, you have to be
Yes.
thinking about those things.
Now,
right?
this is something that people may think reflects negatively on Victor Rivas. I'm just going to leave him to the side now because, again, I don't know that giving Miazga a second yellow was the right call. I think that was probably a very questionable decision that Rivas made because, again, what was he giving the card for? Because he was talking to the fans? Was it dissent with Rivas? It was a decision that meant Miazga was going to be suspended for the Philadelphia game for the next round of the playoffs. So the story that is out now, after Matt Miazga was given a 3-game suspension by Major League Soccer, is that Miazga, and shout out to Laurel Fowler in Cincinnati who covers the team and put this on her blog, which I believe there's a Patreon. Go support Laurel because she does cover this team as well as anybody. Support us first, but then if you have a couple extra bucks laying around, give it to Laurel. She said that he went, this is an hour to 90 minutes after the game. He went to the locker room of the referees in a blue hoodie. Now, I'm guessing
they're still
this was
there an hour to 90 minutes after the game.
So he goes to the blue hoodie. He's carrying a pizza box and some takeout food bag, which
hell yeah.
I don't know like does the man he's back in New York, he's back at Red Bull Arena. He's like,
you're telling
I gotta
me
get
a
my
professional
empanadas.
athlete at the level of Defender of the Year is chowing down on pizza and takeout afterwards. He's the people's champion. That's what I'm learning.
Okay, so
he people's champion.
He apparently gets access to the room. That part is undisputed. And then they're like, you can't be here, you need to leave. And he's like, I just want to talk to the bleeping referee. So he curses. That's the report. Again, Laurel Fowler on this. There's supposedly video. I'm going to read you today, or I'll read you what the MLSPA put out today, Jared, because this raises the level on this whole thing, right? Because we had Matt Miazga reports of something happening, then it's going to be Miazga and he's going to get in trouble, and then we had Pat Noonan saying, it was so been overblown. He said, in fact, this whole thing is a fabrication. He didn't do it. He just went to say hi to these guys. He wasn't actually doing anything wrong. This is what the MLSPA says. The MLSPA condemns the behavior of the Professional Soccer Referees Association and certain PSRA members with regard to the incident at Red Bull Arena involving Matt Miazga. Both the match report approved by the officials and the statements released by the PSRA regarding the incident contained material falsehoods, which is a hell of a lawyer way of saying they lied. Since then, the PSRA has not only failed to correct these falsehoods, its president has continued to repeat them publicly. They say that they held off on saying anything during the disciplinary process, but the PSRA did not. They created and repeatedly reinforced a false public narrative that appears to have directly influenced the process, the disciplinary process. Video footage made available and reviewed during the disciplinary process confirms that statement made by the referees and the PSRA were false. Unfortunately, that evidence does not appear to have been appropriately factored into MLS and their decision. They also say that security should be disciplined for allowing Matt Miazga to get to the locker room for the referees. I
always like that tact.
Speaking of Laurel Fowler, I did see her say on Twitter X that the 3-game suspension is dictated by U.S. Soccer, that if a player gains unauthorized access to the referee locker room, it has to be a 3-game suspension. So
even if there's 2 other guys with frankincense and myrrh.
Maybe even then. I think if you knock politely and they allow you entry, sort of isn't there something about like a dragon or a vampire? Like if a vampire invites you into the house, something happens, or if you invite a vampire
into the house,
that's how that. You tell me. You're more into that stuff than I am. You're like UFO guy and vampires and werewolves, right? No.
Since when am I the Yeti guy or something? Like,
I don't know. Isn't it all in the same boat?
No, what are you talking about?
If you care about UFOs,
one thing is like objectively being proven to be true. The other thing,
okay, hold on. You're telling me that UFOs are much more rooted in fact than cryptozoology? Are you serious right now? Oh, come on, man. What are you talking about? Unreliable eyewitnesses.
You're saying you believe more in Dracula?
No, not Dracula. But probably the Yeti. I probably believe in the Yeti more than UFOs. I mean, UFOs, than alien extraterrestrials.
Being alive right now.
Yeti. Yes, there's a Yeti in Tibet somewhere. 100%. Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know. I don't know what he's up to.
So how did the players' union get Miazga's back then?
Well, so I mean, again, they're saying that there were material falsehoods here. Players in MLS are held publicly accountable for their actions. It is high time that the same standard be applied to officials. Look, he did it, right? He did the bad thing, regardless of how he comported himself when he got there, regardless of whatever. So the PSRA put out their original statement on the day of the game.
If storming an area you're not supposed to be in was really bad, half of Ohio would already be in jail.
Wait, no, I think they are. I think they are. Lots of them are. If you gain unauthorized access to
You're
places
telling me
that
there's
are
punishments for this stuff?
where official things are happening, you can't really be upset if you end up,
Man,
in,
he
in
just
a,
didn't
in
like
a
the
Patriot
results of what
cell.
happened.
He was simply protesting the count.
Yes.
From
He
from the
didn't think he
game.
got the right amount of yellow cards.
Go back and
He's
look
like,
again.
go back and look. He held it weird. It doesn't
Yeah,
count.
he was probably yelling "Stop the steal" as he entered the room. I don't doubt that. I mean,
Either that or storm the Bastille.
Wow.
One or the other.
I don't know, man. I can't. I don't have a lot of sympathy.
Either way,
for Matt Miazga.
Cincinnati's in a tough position now, losing your defender of the year. And honestly, at the end of the day, you can find layers of fault here and there. At the end of the day, it lies at the core with Matt Miazga not able to act like an adult, and his team is going to pay the penalty for
Right.
his actions.
Yes, absolutely. He made.
He's not
a
above the
choice
law.
that put him in that position. I think it's wild that Pat Noonan was trying to characterize this as a nothing burger.
If you're Pat Noonan, though, like you've got so much at stake. You've got a team to manage. I think he's trying to put the best smell on a turd room. Like he's throwing that Glade spray all over this because it's his job.
Again, this was one opinion. I don't know how seriously anybody should take it, but I did see somebody say that in light of this, considering the betrayal of the responsibility he had to his teammates, even though he was defender of the year in MLS, and lots of people will tell you that not only was he not the defender of the year, he probably wasn't the best defender on his team. I think that's a fair thing to say. That maybe Cincinnati needs to find a way out of their relationship with Matt Miazga before next year. I mean,
it's a hard thing to. Well, I'll say this: I'm always a big fan of selling high, and you're not going to sell higher on Miazga than right now with a defender of the year at his back. Now, does he got a bit of tarnish? Yes, he does. But if you're going to get out, now's the time.
yeah. Okay. Well, I will also mention.
I'm sure
that,
LA will take him.
At least one British tabloid wrote up Matt Miazga's suspension by calling him the £3.5 million Chelsea flop gets suspended in Major League Soccer.
Wow, that is a stretch to throw shade.
I mean, that's what they do over there. They got to put it through the local lens, and the local angle on Matt Miazga getting suspended is that he got.
Are they
purchased
also
by
reporting
Chelsea.
that the former Nottingham Forest player is now in the semifinals coaching Houston?
That former Nottingham Forest player Ben Olsen takes Houston to the Western Conference Final. They could do that. Sure. Former Wolves man Cucho Hernandez leads Columbus to the Eastern Conference Final. They don't write positive stories about American
Ben
soccer. What are
Olsen
you,
carries
nuts?
the team to the finals despite having no ankles.
By the way, I'm on Team Benny. Are you on Team Benny?
Absolutely.
Would you
If I'm rooting for a team in this Final Four, I'm rooting for Ben.
Well, I
Olsen.
know you're not rooting for LAFC against Houston. I know that's
No,
a fact.
no.
No.
But that being
no.
said,
Are you-
who doesn't want to see that story play out?
Are you picking a side of Ohio, though? Are you throwing your lot in with either of those?
I'll
those
go with my man
clubs?
Nicky Soup and Salad. I love me some Nicky Soup and Salad. I would go with his team. I think they've been the best team all season. So there is part of me that wants to see the meritocracy of the best team winning.
So no Miazga. I believe Nick Hagelin's done. I think Nwobodo has an injury, but could be back.
They're all
know
offense.
exactly.
Come on, they're just going to
What?
outscore. They're just going to try to outscore.
That's not the way that they've gotten to this point. They've gotten to this point by being very good defensively and throwing.
Brandon Vasquez needs to learn how to score again, and that's how they're going to make this happen.
Okay, I mean, who actually here? This is a great.
How many goals
little-
did Brandon Vasquez have on the season? Was it more than 6?
A poison and a what are we doing together? I didn't mean to do that. Who's more likely to score in the Eastern Conference Final, Brandon Vasquez or Christian Ramirez?
I will say Brandon Vasquez because he plays on an offense that I think can create.
You know, Christian Ramirez scored the first goal for Columbus against Orlando off the bench. That
off
led
the
them
bench,
to
though. I mean, you got to go.
You're playing the odds that that Vasquez is a starter and right now Ramirez is not.
Yeah, let me just see. Like, what?
Okay.
I went to the wrong site to find out how many goals Brandon Vasquez has.
My guess is Brandon Vasquez had 7 goals this year. That's just off the top of my head.
We'll see if the MLS soccer website works for me, and I can actually look at this.
It never does, right? It's always it always traps the
it just opens up and there's blank. It's just
happens
blank
to me all the time. Thought it was just me. Nope. Turns out it's a.
Can you just give me a damn HTML site instead of like all this other crap? I just want to see text. That's all I care about. Just give me the freaking information.
Vasquez had a good Leagues Cup, says Jackie. Well, that's great. That doesn't count for a whole lot of snot for me. I mean, okay.
Yeah, so did Messi.
Anyway,
he's sitting at home right now.
I'll finish up our suspension chat by mentioning that Vanni Sartini got 5 extra games after being thrown out of that playoff match against LAFC, where after the game, he said, if the referee ends up dead in a creek, I will be the first suspect. I'm not saying I would do it, but I would be the first suspect. Jared, is that an appropriate suspension for Vanni Sartini?
I actually think that's a good suspension. I mean, as much as it was tongue in cheek, and we all know it is, you can't threaten the life of a referee. Now,
he didn't.
What I will say is, it's out.
Come on, he didn't threaten. He said if you just so happen to end up in a creek, you know, I don't know. It did channel. He didn't. It wasn't exactly OJ, but it does have OJ vibes to it, right? Like I would be the first suspect, but I'm not saying I would do it. I'm just saying that I would be
this is how
on
I
the
would
list.
If I was going to. Listen. I just think there's no place for it, and I think the league has to make an example of the fact that. That being said, I'm not happy that the referees are completely off limits, but there needs to be a way that you hold them accountable. That's not this.
Okay,
you know?
Jackie says Brandon Vasquez had 8 goals this year, so I was 1 off, but I was pretty damn close. I said 7.
6.
Okay, so
That's
I got closer. I believe that's just league. Okay. I don't know if this is the right way to feel about it because I get what you're saying about referees and accountability and et cetera, et cetera. But if we don't slow down on the referee abuse, the insinuations, the flat out player revolts on the field, some of the other stuff, and this is across the game, not just here in the U.S., where it's probably not nearly as bad as it is in other places. But if we don't stop it, we are not going to have referees. We're going to look up one day and go, oh, nobody wants to be a ref? I don't get it. Why?
I'll tell you right now that you just described my kid's AYSO region. Like, it's at every level. We have
a shortage of referees, and then we want referees to like have to face the press and answer a bunch of questions about what
and
they
to be
did.
good.
And we double check and question everything that they do on the field. Oh, why aren't we looking at VAR for that one and that one and that one and that one? I mean,
who's your favorite MLS/American referee of all time?
Okay, I'll be honest with you. I don't give referees any thought. If you asked me to name 3 referees, I could probably do it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I think my all-time favorite, I remember thinking that, like, despite the fact he got some stuff wrong, I more often than not thought he did a good job. And some people are probably going to hate me for this, but Jair Marufo. I like Jair Marufo back in the day.
Did you know that there is a place where you can look up referee stats in Major League Soccer? Did you know that?
Stats is in how good they were?
No, well,
or
that's
how many
up to
yellow cards they gave and stuff.
Right,
like
how many yellow cards they gave, stuff like that. You can look that up, and you can see. And again, Victor Rivas was MLS Referee of the Year. You have names like Drew Fisher in there. You have Ted Uncle in there. Mark Geiger's no longer reffing. He's running he's running pro these days. But
was it Stott? What was the guy's name?
Kevin Stott. I
Kevin
remember
Stott.
Kevin Stott. Yeah. So you say these names, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. But I'm never like, oh, he's such a terrible ref, I hate him. Or it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm ridiculous. that way.
I don't know. Yeah, but you're right though. There needs to be a solution for how there can be accountability without forcing people to not want to do a thankless job. Is it more money? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's more money. How much abuse is worth how much money do you have to pay someone to take the abuse of a guy walking into your room 90 minutes after the game with a cold pizza? What are they still doing in there 90 minutes later? What are they doing?
Look, I just think this is not going to be a popular opinion. I just think that is not a job where you are going to have the majority of the people thinking you are good at it at any point. I just don't think so. I just think everybody wants to talk about, we used to have better referees. You know why we thought those refs were better? Because we didn't have an opportunity to second guess every single decision that they made.
More underappreciated job, reffing or teaching?
Ooh, teaching is still more underappreciated. Absolutely.
And probably more underpaid too. Do you think refs make more
hold on,
money
wait,
per hour worked?
Hold on. Here we go. Would you rather deal with parents coming after you for some nonsense culture war whatever as a teacher, or soccer parents coming at you as a referee? Which one would be better, worse?
I would say the soccer parents, because that referee's not getting paid.
You're saying it's worse to be a referee?
If you're gonna take the shit, at least get paid for it.
Okay. But even if so what if you were constantly afraid that you could get fired for saying black people were slaves or whatever you're not supposed to say in Florida anymore? I actually don't know what the laws are, but
you can't say gay. I heard.
Oh, you definitely can't say the word gay. If you say gay, you get fired immediately. You're out.
So is there a consensus there was never a gay slave?
I don't know where to go with that one, so I'm just let that one go. But
I'm just wondering how you had what levels of idiocy they actually go to.
Oh man, I don't know. Shout out to the suspended Mr. Miazga and Mr. Sartini. Obviously, much bigger deal for Miazga and FC Cincinnati. All right, I think we did some fine work on this show.
Yeah, we have a hard out because we want to make sure we get a bonus in there. And Jason, if people want to hear that bonus, where can they get it?
I should have done this at the top of the show. Maybe I'll go back and add something on the podcast version. Please go to the Best Soccer Show on Patreon and support the program. It gives us opportunity to do bonus things. The Slack is very fun. There's been a lot of real estate and car purchasing talk. It's a little bit adulting right now. I think we need to bring it back down a couple levels. I hope somebody brings some stupidity back to the community, because I appreciate the stupidity. I don't want to be talking about interest rates, Jerry.
I nominate Tom Opp. Tom, that's your job. Bring the stupidity.
Tom, you got to bring the stupidity back.
I tried to steer this music channel to the stupid Spotify Wrapped stuff.
Oh,
maybe we should go through our Wrapped in the bonus.
Oh, man, mine's boring because it's you could probably guess what all mine is.
Like John.
Although I'll tell you, I also have a podcast app I use, and it has their own version of Spotify Wrapped, and the longest podcast I listened to in 2023 was a podcast called Decoding the Gurus with the guy that you hate, the UFO skeptic that you hate. I listened to almost 3 hours of these guys talking.
Mick West.
Nick West. Yeah. I was
Nick
like,
West.
That's
Yeah.
Nick. Jerry would
guy's
very
full of
much
shit.
not like the fact that I spent 3 hours listening to Nick West. Oh, is
He can make
Okay.
anything a balloon.
that's a superpower. Yeah, what's that? Is that a UFO? No, that's a balloon. I can prove it. All right. Patreon.com/The Best Soccer Show. We had a very fun first half hangout for the first Trinidad and Tobago game.
Yeah.
We might be doing that again. We might be throwing out, all kinds of stuff in the new year. Who knows? You might get stories about Eric Ronaldo. I'm just saying. I don't know. Well, nothing bad. You might just get my experiences.
I hear he talks football.
Is that what you heard?
Uh-huh.
Did you, that's
Michael.
well, that's not the one. That's not the one either. There it is. I don't know where the buttons are anymore. I've lost
Your
the
poor
button.
wife.
I failed to locate the button. Okay, if that's it, Jared, do you have anything you want to add? Any other?
That's it, guys. I'll see you in the bonus.
Okay, that's it, guys. We will talk to you next week. I think. Yeah, probably. Bye. It was there.
Oh, here we go, saucing them up. Hit them. What?
Go to DEFCON 2.
hey, go freaking Oscar Fiscal.
Can I get a manager? Can I please get a manager?
What are we doing? And get fucking stuck in this, Luke.
Oh, it's incredible!
The Sausage King of Chicago.
Calm down, Greg. It's soccer. It's soccer.
Jay Rodius.